Common sense video game design says that in games with platforming, the jump is there to enable exploration. But platforming is just about the worst use of the jump button in Elden Ring. If you're jumping during platforming sections, you've fallen for one of Elden Ring's many metastructural game traps and made platforming way harder for yourself. After years of awkwardly mashing the L3 or dodge button in the From Software Souls games, Elden Ring finally gave us a dedicated jump button. It's a quality of life improvement like infinite stamina outside of combat, the Stakes of Marika respawn points, and mood stabilizers for all the NPCs. It seems like the jump is there to enable exploration, like it would be in any other action game. But the jump is actually way more useful in combat. The best use of the jump button is to attack. Jump attacks are quick and they allow you to cover a lot of ground while landing a solid hit. But the true power of the jump attack is its stance damage. If you're not familiar with poise or stance, it's a hidden mechanic in the Souls games that determines when you or an enemy will stumble under a flurry of blows. It functions a lot like an HP bar. Hits damage an enemy's stance, and if they run out, their stance is broken. Then their attack is interrupted, they become dazed or vulnerable to a critical hit. Stance will regenerate after breaking, or if there's a cooldown period of not being attacked. It encourages players to attack hard and fast, and potentially get greedy with hits. It's one of the many subtleties that makes the Soul combat system so engaging. Every attack does some amount of stance damage, and it's easy to build a character that specializes in stance breaking, using whatever biggest, dumbest weapon you have on hand. Jump attacks do significantly more stance damage than a normal attack. While they do less than a guard counter or a heavy attack, they're much quicker, and they don't require your prey to bashfully wait for you to power up. And you do 20% more stance damage to an enemy that hasn't noticed you. So it's basically always a great strategy to open combat with a cool dive bomb. It's free stance damage. The second best use for jumping is to avoid big sweeping ground attacks. When you jump, your hitbox shrinks and you're immune to damage immediately, so you can clear those annoying arena-wide AoEs. If you want more details on this, I recommend Leviathan's excellent video essay on jumping versus dodge rolling. I will drop a link in the video description. The third best use of jumping in Elden Ring is demonstrating impatience to a co-op friend. The fourth best use is to check out the physics of a new weird cape you just got. And then the fifth best use of jumping in Elden Ring is platforming. And even then, you should be using it way less than you realize. Most of the platforming sections are barely platforming. A surprising number of Elden Ring's areas are designed so that you start out high and work your way downwards. That makes sense for areas like dungeons, which open at ground level and delve deeper, but even sections like Crumbling Farum Azula and the Halig Tree start you at the top and make you wind your way down. That's generally not where you start climbing a tree. They've designed it this way because you're not supposed to be platforming up. Your schlubby little jump isn't very tall, and it has very little air control. Air control is when you can change your direction mid-air to correct your positioning, and it's pretty standard in platformers. And as you can see, you have a little bit of lateral movement mid-air, but way less than you'd expect in a real platformer. Basically, once you jump, you're locked in. It's the same way From Software treats their attack animations. Once you make a choice, you're pretty committed. So think, plan, and don't get greedy. Because of this gentle downward design, you don't often need to jump to make progress. And this is where that tricky From Software game development style comes into play. Many gaps in this game are designed to look like you need to jump in order to cross them, when actually, dropping down is enough, and jumping is too much. The Bellerat Jail in Shadow of the Erdtree is a great example. You don't have to jump a single time to complete this. It's designed so that the jars start out close together and seem to get further apart with each drop, but that's just to bait you into an unwieldy jump. And true to From Software form, the final platform isn't a platform, but a big old jar head that you can't lock onto before you drop down. This drop-down method is also valid for a lot of horse-based platforming, like these tombstone slabs. They're probably not tombstones. I don't know what they are. I haven't been able to find any lore videos about them. Vati or Zuli, if you hear my prayer, please put me out of my misery. You should never die while traversing these tombstones. Rarely, if at all, can you climb up them. You can only go down them. Darling Torrent can't jump straight up vertically, he can only go forwards. And when he lands, there's an ever so small amount of forward momentum, just enough to send you plummeting. Beloved Torrent has excellent air control, and the double jump can save you in a pinch, so it's very tempting to jump. But the tombstones are usually spaced so that you can merely drop down onto them, and even the ones that aren't are still crammed into a wall, which means you can always just run into them to stop your forward motion. Absolutely none of this is to say that the platforming in Elden Ring is good. It's not. There are invisible walls you can ping off of. A seemingly solid landing might send you sliding off the edge. And there are a few notoriously miserable parts of the game where you do have to nail incredible running leaps. But they're mostly just for loot. Like a lot of the hardest parts of Souls games, platforming in Elden Ring is something you subject yourself to. It's not a coincidence that the worst platforming section in the game is required to unlock the insanity ending. When you put this all together, it really seems like the devs at From Software have put in a jump button to make platforming harder and not easier. They're leveraging your genre awareness of action games in order to frustrate, punish, and trip you up. Consider Elden Ring from the perspective of a first-time player. After character creation, you're dropped into an empty area with a weapon. You don't have a healing flask yet, but depending on your class, you might at least have some pants. Surely this is the tutorial area. Wrong! The first combat you face in Elden Ring is a boss. Not just a hard enemy, but a full-on boss. And not just a boss, but a boss that will become an enemy that continues to be challenging for the rest of the game. This boss is beatable. You didn't have to lose this fight, but you did. Everyone did. This is an insane game design choice. After being savagely skewered, another cutscene plays and you're dumped into the actual tutorial area. You get healing flasks and a finger, and you learn how to stab and jump. Then a short elevator ride later and you're finally ready to dig into the game. Just kidding. You immediately stumble into the brain-smashing hooves of a crucible knight. For a certain kind of player, this is like nailing a cheese grater to a wall and labeling it free back scratches. It's a self-service flagellation station, the painted tunnel on a side of a wall you can't help but run into. Both of these encounters are in total defiance of common sense video game design. In a standard action game, you start off weak with enemies slightly stronger than you, enough to present a challenge, but not to frustrate you. Over time, your numbers go up and the enemies keep pace. This is how you prove mastery over the game's mechanics, by defeating progressively harder enemies, usually capstoned in a boss fight. Elden Ring opens with a boss fight because From Software wanted you to mistrust that action game meta structure. They don't want you to take for granted that it would function like a normal action game, because it doesn't. I mean, this is a game that has an item called a blessing that decreases your HP by 5%. And Elden Ring is extra complex because it doesn't just want new players to mistrust that structure. It was also designed so that returning, veteran Souls players would mistrust everything they thought they knew about Souls games. As a veteran Soulser, I was drawn to the fog wall when I entered this first boss area. I thought, oh, surely there's a boss on the other side. So when it dropped down dead center, I was like, yep. They got me. It's like when you catch a waft of fresh garbage smell on the first warm day of spring, a horrible sign of the start of something glorious. From Software had to know that putting a fog wall there would make some players assume they would be facing a boss when they crossed over, not seconds before. They were creating expectations in order to subvert them. You can see another example of this in Elden Ring's chests. For decades, gamers have been taught that if you find a chest, you're in for treasure. That's true most of the time in Elden Ring. Most of the time. But a little of that excitement dies the first time a new player opens a teleportation chest. Veteran Souls players already knew not to trust chests because of these heinous mimics from the Souls series. But From Software didn't just revamp the mimic design as they did with some other enemies. Instead, we have a whole new take on a trapped chest. The teleportation trap tweaks the nose of gamers who knew to check which way the chain coils. From Software games have a unique design logic, which is very close to, but ever so slightly different from other action games. Oftentimes, that small difference is what frustrates players the most. Mastering the Souls genre isn't just about beating bosses. It's also about sensing what items are bait for a backstab, and which seemingly straightforward tunnels have switchbacks. It's about knowing how the mechanics work or don't work. It's an extremely From Software design choice to give you the ability to jump with ease, and then structure the game so it's more useful in combat than in platforming. Platforming in Elden Ring is essentially a trust fall, and that's really funny. It's the only place that you're supposed to actually trust From Software, and the place you're least likely to. Thank you for watching this video, and an extra special thank you to Zelio, who proofread the script and make sure it was all logical and sound and accurate. I really appreciate it. If you enjoy video essays like this, you should check out the other videos on my channel, and also support me on Patreon at patreon.com/thejenna. Patreon subscribers are the main way I'm able to support myself making videos like this, so if you want to see more of them, you should subscribe. Not only because that enables me to make more of them, but because you'll get access to all of the secret exclusive Patreon videos that I've made. A lot of those videos are cut content or background information on some of my other video essays, like Nintendo swimsuit problem or my Indica video. There are companion videos to both of those essays. It also includes a 2-hour-long book report where I do a deep dive on Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's Beyond Boredom and Anxiety. This is the book where we get the concept of flow, and it's a seminal book in video game design concepts. I go through it chapter by chapter, talk about anything that's relevant or interesting to both video games, but also just broader living. Csikszentmihalyi was really interested in how to live a good life. So check out all of those exclusive videos and more behind the scenes content on my Patreon at patreon.com/thejenna. Here's a fun fact. When I was getting the B-roll of me going down to the Frenzy Flamed area, when I played the game the first time, which is that character, I tried and died maybe 20 times on that particular area and got fed up and left. And I did not realize that I had not actually completed that. So when I came back to try it again, I'm trying it with this drop-down method, and it works so well. I got it on my second try. You can onboard in that jumping section at the wrong area and hit a dead end basically with your platforming, which again, really fun and frustrating game design choice. So you can see my souls there from my first attempt. And then this was my second attempt. I didn't realize that I hadn't actually finished it in the first game, and this was my first success. You do still have to do some jumps, but the drop-down method works.